again, today's webinar is the first of 4. And today we're really kind of going backwards to go forwards. And so that's why it's all about entrance and exit criteria, and hopefully a few other pieces of information that you might find interesting and helpful as you prepare for this next school year. Before we get started, I just want to introduce you to Amy Konzen, who is an instructional coordinator that was recently hired by OPI. And she is on my team now. My name is Carrie Kova, and I am the unit director now for Title I school support. And we're in the process of hiring 2 more instructional coordinators, and we'll talk more about that later. Also on the call, I see that we have Crystal Andrews, and she is moving a little bit out of her role and into a new role. Yeah. She's with Title III support, but she's also our targeted coordinator as well, the unit director for that, officially, unofficially. So she's on this role, or she's in this call as well. And let me see if there's anybody else that I need to introduce. So this agenda today is, we're going to talk a little bit about what to expect this year, a little bit more about the upcoming webinars. We're going to go backwards to look at the entrance criteria, and then go forward with looking at the exit criteria and next steps. We're reorganizing at the OPI level, and right now in our division, Crystal and I have been working really close with Alana Running Wolf, who is the unit director for American Indian Student Achievement, and then also Donnie Wetzel, who's moved into a new role of tribal and community liaison, and his unit is tribal community something liaison, or resiliency unit. And so one of the things we've been really working on is kind of how do we all work together for the common good, instead of all of us working separately hard but not necessarily in the same direction. And we're realizing we are so intertwined, and it's just exciting to see all the work that we've been doing in terms of just seeing our visions and moving forward. So a lot of what's happening, and I'm just going to go and refer back to the letter that you received. We are in year 3, moving into year 3 of schools being identified in comprehensive. But because of COVID-19, things have been kind of mixed up a little bit. And Julie Mergel, our division administrator, really outlined that well in the letter that we sent out. So you know that we had waivers that we put in place for this year to waive all of those statewide testings, but also a waiver in place of our school identification requirements, and then also for our report card, because all of them are, they coincide with one another. But that throws a wrench in our whole system, right? Because now we don't have data from this year to look at in the fall to see which schools are ready to exit out of comprehensive. And so one of the things that Julie stated in the letter, and I'm just going to revisit that again, and so I encourage you to take that letter out again, is that because of that accountability status, and because we don't have the data from 1920, is that OPI is gathering public comment and considering the need of another waiver related to this issue to address using the data collection of 2021 as the year 3 data, which CSI schools would be measured to meet exit criteria, and ensuring that we have an option to extend for a 4th year. And I really wanted to make an opportunity to state that, because that is something that just jumped out at the page for me, in terms of there might be a possibility that we won't support year 4 if schools are showing and you being able to use data from 2021 for exit criteria. So more on that to come. I know Julie and I have a meeting after this to talk a little bit more about that, but to me that's pretty exciting for a couple of reasons. Several of you received a letter March 6th, kind of giving you kind of a status update of where your schools were in terms of that first exit criteria of being out of the 5% if we were to look at the data from the previous year. And so there's a lot of things that schools are doing right. And I just encourage you to take a look at all of your practices, especially if you receive that letter saying you are if we were to take the data from today, which meant the prior year's data, you're moving in the right trajectory. And so what practices, procedures, processes that are you using now that are helping you move out of that bottom 5%? So more on that information to come. But even more so, just like we have as our teachers, we really appreciate that gradual release process. We're at that place with all of our schools as well. We're at that you-do stage, especially in year 3. And so with that, there should be more autonomy for school districts to make more decisions on their own, as opposed to OPI stating what you need to do. Some of those things have been in place from the beginning. CNA goals should be based on your CNA data, your gap analysis, and other needs from the district. But some autonomy, more autonomy is coming in terms of what your budget's going to look like. In the last 2 years, we had given you a paper copy stating what your budget was going to look like, and then also stating in specific categories that you needed to have so much money in maybe professional development due to maybe fall and spring conferences. And we also had an area where you received so many dollars, but they had to be used for an instructional consultant, and that instructional consultant needed to come so many times a month. Those are some areas in which you are going to receive some more flexibility. In fact, you're going to receive all the flexibility. Everything still needs to line up to your goals. That hasn't changed. But you're going to just receive a blank slate moving forward, and we're going to try to do our best in supporting you. What that does for some districts, when I think of other areas where you're receiving aid or other grants, we do have some overlap this year. I believe there's 4 schools at least that have received the new literacy grant. And so that also will allow you to be able to utilize your Title I school support dollars differently, and so that it doesn't become a burden when you have these 2 separate things working on simultaneously. And the last thing is last year, or the 2 prior years, we were able to provide support where we had OPI contacts come out to every school district. We're finding out that it wasn't as consistent. But the idea was that you would have an OPI contact that would come and visit your school once a month. And now that, because we are now down to 4 people in my unit, that we are going to start a regional support. And so in the email that I sent you, it might have indicated, well, I know it indicated what school districts are going to be in your region. And more information will be forthcoming on that, because it's going to be based on the needs of the schools in that region. We want to take our cue from you. I'm going to state the importance of even the other 3 webinars that will be coming. And I understand the timing might not be the best, but just please know that every webinar will be recorded. One of the things that I'm pretty excited about to share with you is that our data team here at OPI has comprised the CNA data that your school has taken over the course of, they've comprised your CNA data, and they're actually, I just talked to them yesterday, they're just starting to add the CNA from this last go around, even though you didn't have to fill out for the operational components. That information is going to be really important for you to look at. And then also you're going to get a chance to look at the triangulation data from this last year, from your OPI contact, your instructional contact consultant, excuse me, and also the school. Again, it's just all information that's going to help you. We really just want you to be able to look at all that and either validate that you're moving in the right direction, or maybe it'll show you that you want to hyper focus on an area that maybe you it's part of your goals but wasn't a #1 goal. And then our next webinar, July 29th, is going to be about the CSIP, Continuous School Improvement Plan. And the reason why we're bringing this to light is because last year you were not required to fill that out, and now Julie, our division administrator, and just in terms of what our verbiage says in ESSA, the requirement is there. So we are going to go through that with you. And then August 5th will be there's going to be in the Title I school support area for e-grants is a new section in there, and it's going to be important that you have your continuous improvement plan finished so that you can plop all that information in the e-grants. In years prior, school districts and comprehensive received a paper copy that kind of indicated all their budget, and this year we're not doing any of that. It will just be in e-grants, and we'll move in that direction.